Okay, as many of you are aware, the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics maintains a large number of technical committees that they work on space policy and various education, practice, etc., on various topics. The DETC is concerned with issues of engineering and architecture, and we publish a design guide, which many of you might be familiar with, that has a collection of rules of thumb and different design issues and things like that that function as a guide for designers. So, as I introduce our subcommittee, I'll talk about the history, the members, aims, paradigms, and research and conferences that we sponsor sessions at. As an Aerospace Architecture Subcommittee, one of the issues that we are very much interested in is the extreme environments that space represents. And architecture, currently, the field is very, very narrow within the aerospace community because there are not that many precedents out there for architecture applications. So a lot of our members are involved with architecture in all sorts of extreme environments, such as polar, ocean, desert, as well as the space environments. So our charter encompasses the architectural design of living and working environments in aerospace-related facilities, habitats, and vehicles. Okay, anything that has to do with human habitation, especially human habitation for both living and also for working environments, we have an interest in those kinds of environments. The history of the subcommittee, it started with in NASA Ames Research Center, the Space Human Factors Office in the 1980s with Mark Cohen, who is over here manning the camera.
Not really. Actually, the first space architect was Maynard Dalton at Marshall Space Flight Center in the Skylab program in the late 60s and in the 70s.
Well, but he didn't start the subcommittee. So.
Oh, no. But you got to give Maynard credit.
Okay. And Mark has been, over the years, he's been very much involved with aerospace architecture activities and research and projects. Mark went to University of Michigan to do his doctorate, and through that he has gotten a lot of other members involved who also went to the same program. And that first began as a working group. The subcommittee began as a working group within the DETC. And in the year 2000, we became an official subcommittee, and we presented our first architectural symposium, self-contained, at the World Space Congress in Houston. Currently, we're working towards an aerospace architecture technical committee, which we hope to be able to do perhaps in 2005 or 2006. The members, in order to become a member, you have to be a member of the AIAA, and we require attendance to at least 2 of our meetings a year for those who are domestic, and 1 meeting a year for those who are international. Now, one thing that's very interesting about our group is, as you'll see today in the topic of this session, is that a lot of our members, as a matter of fact, we have a majority of international members than domestic members. And so we've developed contacts all over the world in many, many countries of those who are working with human factors and architecture. The things that we work on are research. A lot of collaboration of research. We've been able to land funding for a lot of projects. Steering for policy and publications, etc. So the aims, therefore, for our subcommittee are to initiate research in this field, provide a lot of resources for architects and for designers and for aerospace engineers who are interested in architectural paradigm or in the issues having to do with human factors and architectural issues. And so a lot of our efforts have been to explore the different ideas for education, and because the field is so small yet, we do a lot of self-study. Most of us have not. There's no current degree in space architecture, only fragments. A lot of since many of us are architects, we're involved in a lot of space architectural projects. For instance, the recent TransHab was one of our members were heavily involved in that. And we have established a web page called spacearchitect.org that has a lot of these resources available on it. It has information for membership. If I can just get my laser pointer out here real quick. The publications list, we maintain an extensive publications list. There's hundreds of papers that we've built up over the years that have to do with these issues. And the links there will either provide raw links for the paper for those that we've been able to obtain the copyright, and also or links to the organization that sells the papers themselves. The resources include links to different places that space architects would be interested in, and also information on becoming a member, and links to the various programs that our members are involved in. The activities link has a calendar that shows the projects coming up, and the conferences coming up, and the sessions that we'll be chairing, paper submittal deadlines, etc. And then there's a members page as well. So some of the paradigms that we are interested in, which the topics in today's session, you will hear about some of these paradigms in design, the various creative design, engineering design, conceptual design, so just the various aspects of that, the human dimension, human factors, the development of space for various human activity, development of the discipline of aerospace architecture, where we're concerned with both the issues of education and also of practice. And then construction, planetary construction, orbital construction, and innovative projects that come along with that. Specific research projects that our members are involved with are included on this list: inflatable structures, artificial gravity, orbital architecture, kit of parts, construction robotics, etc. The conferences that we sponsor sessions in, one of the main ones every year is the International Conference of Environmental Systems, and that is held in July at various places. And we sponsor 2 technical paper sessions at that conference. And the other one is the current space conference, where we sponsor 2 technical sessions as well. Sometimes we have other, for instance, we're involved with the human factors as well, so we have additional paper sessions for those. Then the third one is the Aerospace Architecture Symposium, which we had our first one that I mentioned in Houston this last year. And the next one is going to be held in 2005 in Fukuoka at the IAC conference in conjunction with that in 2005 in October, I believe.
Fukuoka, Japan.
Fukuoka, Japan, yeah, I'm sorry. So the subcommittee gives an opportunity for architects who are interested in the aerospace issues and in the space industry to become involved. Also, it gives an opportunity for many of the engineers, aerospace engineers, to hone their skills in architectural issues, human factors, etc. And we feel that we provide a good service to the industry. And we very much, Mark right now is passing out one of the pamphlets for the Design Engineering Technical Committee. We invite as many members who are interested as we can. We'd like to grow our membership and increase our pool of knowledgeable, talented individuals. Okay, Maria, if you can go ahead and connect your computer. Then,
Well, are there any questions?
anybody have any questions while she's doing that? Yes.
What's the definition of architecture in this concept? What's the difference between a space architect and a space engineer?
Yes. Okay. Let me give that question over to Mark, because Mark has a very good definition that he likes.
Oh, really? I don't remember what it is.
He actually has 3 or 4 that he gives out, and each time he gives it out, it's the appropriate one. So.
Oh, really? I'll have to start writing these down. Basically, I see architecture as a continuum from classical architecture through modern and avant-garde architecture, just Buckminster Fuller, to space architecture. The essence is physical problem solving for complex problems, whether they're social, economic, functional, and this is particularly for environments where people are living and working. And I work closely with engineers, as do most of the others, all the other space architects who are in NASA or the aerospace companies. And we just have a different perspective, and the unique perspective is essentially 3 points. One, we have an approach, a design method approach that's different. It's a self-conscious method approach, as opposed to sort of the glass box methods which are basically preventative of error that dominate engineering, particularly systems engineering. And second, we have a concept of design, the individual as the nature of the individual design having a special character. And third, architecture is sort of the ultimate integrating discipline, because in our traditional practices on Earth, we have to integrate our design plus the structural engineer, the electrical engineer, the mechanical engineer, all the other design professions, and make them work together to create a whole. So our education and whole orientation tends to be holistic towards pulling all these things together, whereas engineering education tends to become increasingly specialized as somebody advances. And then you get this such a discipline as system engineering, which is trying to kind of put these things together, but do it on a kind of a quantifiable or a pseudo-quantifiable basis that often misses the big picture, in my view.
But you don't see it, I mean, most of the papers are talking about human factors type stuff. And
We include
Charter
human
says
factors.
design of living and working environments. You don't see it limited just to that.
No, we do, you know, structures, space station configurations,
Okay.
equipment, industrial, it includes a lot of industrial design.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
What's the process of becoming a member?
Yes, the membership process, you would start, the easiest way is to go to the link, the resources link on spacearchitect.org, and there's a step-by-step process. But to illustrate that, what that process is you would first become a member of the AIAA, and the next step after you get your membership number back, then the AIAA has a link for a nomination form to become a member of one of the technical committees. And you can do all this online. You get online and you fill out the form and apply for the design engineering technical committee and put a comment on there interested in aerospace architecture. And of course, you can contact any of us if you have questions. Any other questions?
Okay, we should wait till 2:30 to start. So we can hand out some cards here. Yeah, we did this once already.
Then I have it in that stack.
No, as a matter of fact, we've been trying to create that. All of the aerospace architects are in the ASP. They're working at the ASP engineer category, AST aerospace engineer, AST man systems category. And they're all engineering by credits. GSA series 800. Or GS series 800. Yeah. Anyone else like that? Sure.
So, Mark, I mean, Scott, are you still affiliated with NASA? I know you're still with NASA.
I have
No, he's at NASA. I'm not. I'm at Hong Kong.
I saw some publication where I thought I saw.
Oh, no, that's my brother.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of us now.
What are you doing?
Stop this.
Is there an extra cover for me?
Has, she did research on color architecture since 1996 in the UK. She got her PhD on color and space at the University of Sandford, Manchester in the UK. Salford, okay. She is currently a professor in the Faculty of Architecture at the Technical University of Lisbon, where she is a scientific coordinator of the master course in color in architecture. She's also members of quite an impressive list of various organizations, such as the Executive Committee. She's a vice president of the International Association of Color Consultants and Designers based in San Diego and in Geneva, Switzerland, and also president of the Portuguese Association, the Color Association. that belongs to the AIC International Color Association. Some of her current research includes, she's a member of a research group working on advanced built environment research. It is based in Glasgow. It involves the University of Glasgow, the University of Glasgow Caledonian, the University of Strathclyde, and the Building Research Establishment. And she's currently developing an international project. Glasgow Sustainability Project. Okay. The paper she's going to present is color considerations for the design of space habitats, and it's co-authored by Paola, yes. She's going to talk to us for about a half hour, and then immediately following that, we're going to fill in the gap on the schedule and have Martina Pini start at 3 o'clock. So, Maria?
Good afternoon. Colors are not very good here. This was supposed to be orange and blue, and what we see is yellow and blue. First comment, and I'm sure that the rest will be much better. How does color considerations for the design of space habitats start? Last year in October at the World Space Congress, I presented a very abstract end paper on color, and somebody came to me and asked me for collaboration. She was doing work, Paola Favata, was doing work on space architecture, and she wanted to work with somebody who would know and who would like to do with her some experiments on color, and that was why we started this this whole idea of collaborating with each other. So what we did was, she thought of a space we could work with, and this is the US Discipline Laboratory module. We will not here go into specifications and descriptions, although they can be seen in the paper. I will go almost directly to the issues of color. This US laboratory module, Destiny laboratory module, was used as a case study to examine the impact that the combinations of colors produce when used in the interior of this particular module. So we had 5 schemes, we worked on 5 schemes, and our aim is not to suggest that any of them is the correct one, or even to propose one as the best. What we wanted to do is to show you how important color is in changing the space. So it's kind of a provocation. Look at these colors. See how they actually change the space. Now, before you ask me if perception of color is different in space, the answer is we don't have experiments that give us a conclusive result to that question, a conclusive answer to that question. Because we know that color's importance became evident during Skylab and satellite missions, and in the 70s, in order to demonstrate that there were some benefits, behavioral benefits of enriching in the setting with color, were carried out by the Russians. The majority of these color work was carried out in weightlessness by Russians. The first was conducted by Kitaev Smith, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, in the 70s, in short-term weightlessness flights. He noticed that illusions of varying duration, sometimes consisting in changes of color intensity, decrease of brightness, and decrease in contrast. And the explanation that he gave to this phenomenon was that that this was due to exaggerated motion of the retinal image. And then, later on in the following study, during short-term weightlessness, he noticed that yellows, very highly saturated yellows, I don't have the yellow here, I will show you what a highly saturated yellow is, and reds were perceived as brighter, while blue was seen as less bright, and green, or mixed green, blue and green, was matched to yellow. Now, these findings suggest that some changes occurring at the level of retinal processing might occur in the first period of weightlessness. But in a last significant study, he found that yellow and brown could increase the sensation of nausea, while blue would reduce the sensation. But the fact is, this is also true on Earth. We also have these results, and there has been a lot of research in psychophysiological responses to color. So these don't contradict at all the results that we have here. So there is no proof, or rather, no proof has been demonstrated that there are negative semantic effects associated with brown or any other color during long-term weightlessness. What has been proven is that a dynamic lighting schema is needed in the spatial environment, and variety too of colors has been requested, and this request has come from both astronauts and cosmonauts. So, possibly the way to differentiate the color palette appears to be in making an association between different color palettes and different activities, and taking into account the emotional state, which someone before me presented a paper on emotional states. These issues are becoming more and more important, of how the psychological effects of being in a space. This is an issue that's becoming more and more important. So, the emotional state that astronaut or cosmonaut have in fulfilling a particular function. Up to today, and in spite of these Russian studies, there are no real proofs, there is no real data, there is no real demonstration that there are changes in perception due to weightlessness in medium long-term space flights. But this is not the same as saying that there aren't. The fact that we don't have data to prove does not mean that it's a fact in itself. This brings me to another issue. In color, in the research in color, whether we're talking about research in design and industrial design, or in painting, or in history, or in the architectural object itself, or even in terms of town planning, color research is something that has to be used in particular situations, and it's very difficult to generalize results. That's one of the things about color. But color research has been carried out for many years. There are some people that advocate that there are possibilities of generalizing, and that's the reason why research is done, is because we need the generalizations, because we need to have data to change reality. We need to have sound data to build theories on. In terms of color, this can be a difficult problem. Still, we know that studies in the variation of color palettes remain anchored to problems of certifications and flight safety requirements, which is also true in other circumstances. Anyway, to integrate the largely white surfaces with more color variety appears to be quite evident. And one of the ways to do this is to separate functional areas and to treat this in terms of color coding, so that bright and very highly saturated colors could be associated to small areas and to particular functions, edges, hardware, coding items, and the general space would be in less contrasting and less saturated colors. Now, drawing on architecture of the International Space Station Flight Crew Integration Standards that considers some requirements, basically 3 of them: consistent orientation, visual orientation, and separation. Separation here meaning that there must be a demarcation between 2 different areas, or 3 different areas, or 2 different workstations. We started with this, with these requirements, but we moved on. And as I said before, we moved on to explore other effects that colors may have in a particular space. So here I won't have time either to address color codings and the rearrangements that were done in terms of the inside and of the racks. I will talk about the 5 different experiments that were done. In this color, I will call this color scheme 1. There's a predominant use of different tints and shades of gray and blue. Yes, you can see the blues and the grays. They're very different from the... Anyway, it's shades of blues and grays. And these establish a unity in the interior. There's a problem with unity in the interior when dominant colors are similar. There's a risk of creating an environment which is monotonous and a surrounding which is understimulating. So, to some extent, also these colors are not used to promote a clear differentiation between working areas, and they do not provide also a clear right-left-hand orientation reference. The lack of variation in hues when we deal in the spaces where people work and stay and live for many hours can be a problem in the sense of producing fatigue and in the sense of producing monotony. Lots of research has been carried out on these psychological effects of colors that indicate that the extreme unity of colors rarely produce restlessness and excessive emotional response, some difficulty in concentration, and in some extreme cases, irritation. The presence, you can't see the light, I'm sorry, you really can't see the light blues, I can see them here, but the presence of larger areas of light blues that contrast in value with the grays break up to some extent the issue that I raised before, which is that of monotony. The yellow that is highly strong is used on the handrails to accent and, in this case, clearly demarcate functions. Also, a lot of research has been carried out on the impact that blue has on us, and they may impart a common character to the space. But for this to be true in both the greys and the blues would have to be reduced in terms of chromatic strength. In this color scheme, which we call color scheme 2, a complete solution has been attempted. There is a diversity in the palette, and this diversity resides in the use of short and long wave colors. So here you have a contrast of both ends of the spectrum, and you also have a variety of different chromatic values. We have, well, there's, in our common language, we tend to use warm colors and cold colors, so we associate warmer colors to reds, oranges, and yellows, and cooler colors to the violets, blues, and greens. But this is really not how can I say, rigid, and it's really not scientific in the sense that there's no rigor to it. A violet can be warm if it's tinged by red, and a violet can be cooler if it's tinged by blue, so it also depends on the surrounding colors, the colors that they are placed next to. Complexity increases with chromatic strength, and with this varied turquoise, blue, mandalay, deep, I hope you're looking at those colors, light oxide, red, terra de sienna, oxide of chromium, and off-white, and a variety of oranges and roses, they dispute their presence. So it's an extremely complex scheme you have here. Here you have also not saturated yellows, but yellows, when unsaturated, can create a very big impact in terms of complexity. Now, normally, when complementary pairs are juxtaposed, they tend to give brilliance to the other colors, and they tend to give it a complementary tinge. And the explanation for this is that blue creates a yellow after image, and yellow creates a blue after image, so that they emphasize each other. This is a phenomenon which is of physiological nature, but has a great impact on our readings when we're looking at color in terms of aesthetic. In the end, that's what it's all about. When physiological and psychological effects are combined to produce an aesthetic, an impact which is aesthetic. Also, it's the perception of size. Saturated colors stand out, which means that they change the perception of the size of a particular space. There is a difference of perception between red or blue, and this is also based on the physiological effect. It's the aberration in the refractive media of the eye. Because radiation of short wavelengths causes images to be focused closer to the lens than the radiation of long wavelengths, a red always appears closer than a similar, and this is very important to stress, a similar blue, when they are placed at the same distance of the viewer. Now let's look at color scheme 3. In this case, it's still very different from what I have here, from the colors I have here. They are less contrasting, the colors are less contrasting, and there is less use of saturated background in relation to the example in scheme 2, the one before. It still retains a sense of unity, and this, in part, has to do with the use of muted earth colors, like the English red, the light violet, the terra de sienna, and the ochre. The association also with items with images of earth. And accents are provided by more saturated hues of emerald green, of the reds, which I don't see there, as green here. In this one you can see the emerald green, the other one. Excuse me. Yes, it is very different. It's a pity that I'm talking to you about colours and you're not looking at the colours I'm talking about. I'm sorry, Brian.
Maria, I think also that you're a specialist in color, so you see color a lot more sensitive.
But I keep comparing it, it doesn't seem like the same at all. Okay. Yes, thank you. I would also like to refer that lightness that is imparted by the colors, such as the yellows and the greens and the neutrals, bear some influence on the perception of size and this is for the exact reason why in the other scheme the size of the space seemed smaller. There is, however, another issue here, is that the off-white stone-like patterns on the lower standoff face plate serve as orientation. These provide textural ground and earth associations, while the one on the upper standoff extends the space vertically and also creates those associations between, the dichotomy between earth and sky. And because I've only got, what, 8 minutes left, this is an example of excessive weight and extreme dullness. And like the first example where you had the blue and the grays, this is monotonous because it has a combination that is very similar in chromatic values. So they're all highly strong in chromatic values. It's also accepted and confirmed by empirical observation that darker and more saturated colors appear heavier than the ones which are lighter and less saturated ones. So here in this case you have very saturated examples. And also there's a problem here of visual noise and confusion, which also have an influence on visual ergonomics, because the distinction of the areas may be difficult to interpret, and the establishment of the appropriate visual conditions difficult to achieve. This would be considered the last, and as I said at the beginning, we're not looking for the best solutions. We're looking at examples that show you how colors may change the perception of a particular space, but this one would be closer to what could be required in a space. It includes a variety of hues, but there's some similarity in lightness and intensity, so there's no great contrast except in the little portions, the little objects. And there's a sense of continuity because it's not visually broken down. There's a sense of continuity which allows for the space to expand visually. This is very important in confined spaces such as these. Also the off-whites that you have in the backgrounds, they are not intrusive and allow for the attention to be dedicated to other elements. Another issue concerning grays is that they can be tinged by the presence of other hues, so you have a sense of dynamism which is not lost, although most of the colors are pastel and they a little, well, quite more muted than the ones that you see here. And I think my time is over. Can I just add something? I think it's very important also to say that feedback from people who actually live in the spaces is very, very important. So to know what people that live here think about these colors, and not only in terms of technology, but there's a lot to be said in how these colors can be used in a space which is highly technological. What you do you paint the objects, the computers in these colors? What you extract the elements? What you do with the racks? Of course, that is our concern too. We are concerned with those issues. We know that the computers cannot be easily tinged, but what we want to create is the need for the understanding that color is an important issue that one should take into consideration in order to understand and to live in any kind of environment for human purposes. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a few minutes for questions. Actually, I can start out with one. Do colors trigger emotions, or do we know that?
Is that one question or two?
Take it either way.
If we know that they trigger emotions.
Do we know that colors trigger emotions?
Okay. I'm a painter, so I'm not an architect. I work at the Faculty of Architecture, but I'm a painter. Does color trigger emotions on a painter. Obviously, I work with color directly. I even have pleasure in mixing colors with my fingers. So even in the process of changing colors in the palette and in the canvas, of course there's emotion involved. Now, scientifically speaking, do we know that people are affected by colors? Well, there has been a lot of research that tells us, yes, there is emotional response to colors. Yes. So that's why I asked if it's one question or two questions, because if you're asking about my personal experience, obviously, but the fact that the architectural community all over the world is more and more interested in talking about color, doing research on color at the universities, in their enterprises, in their companies, I think that this means that there has been a tradition in color research that justifies the continuity. And I'm not only talking about Europe, I'm talking about the whole world. Of course, there are architects, and if we just talk about architects, there are architects that have been working for color all their lives, even before there were institutions of art, academies of art. They used it because by instinct, by culture, by need, for emotional reasons too. Any architect, I think, any architect, I think, can be affected by color.
Not only architects.
Yes, but I know because this is an architecture. Yes, please.
On the research about color, is the with emotional effects of color, do colors tend to evoke the same emotion? I mean, in different people, in other words, blue would evoke the same emotional reaction in people that maybe even across different cultures, or would somebody in Africa maybe respond differently than somebody?
Okay. There are different, I lived in Africa, I'm from South Africa basically, and I lived in Mozambique and I lived in Angola, and of course Africans have a completely different attitude to color. They use color differently, they like different types of color, they dress with different colors, their houses that have different colors. Culture is a very important issue when we consider our preferences in terms of color. I think it's a context. So beyond this, it's the context. For example, this particular space, is this the best color? Should we change the color? It depends on what we're going to use the space for. If you had white walls, it would reflect more light. If we talk about color used in hospitals, we have to use one kind of color because hospitals have a particular function. If we talk about colors in schools, we have to use different, it depends on the ages also of the people that are in school. Different colors for different kinds of rooms, different sizes of rooms, has to do a lot with the function. Equipment used in factories, places like companies that work with computers, and the illumination, all these elements have to be integrated. You cannot see any of these in isolation. And that's one of the reasons why I was saying that beyond this work that is theoretical, more theoretical than practical, obviously, it needs to be tested. It needs to be tested with people that are living in the space, because those are the people who know if they want that color, why they want that color, and how do they actually react to color. And the rest is, of course, it's theory that's based on tradition of research in color.
How important do you think color variation over time is? Sort of, you talked about colors generically as if they're painted on, but you can also get colors by varying lighting.
Yeah.
And you can change colors periodically in the course of a day or in the course of a time. Is that very important for a situation where you're going to be in space for a year?
I think it would be extremely important to combine what you just said, the pigment, okay, the surface which is colored, with the different lighting. That would be the excellence of the situation, to be able to combine lighting and the pigment color.
Your different color schemes show the effects of different color in terms of foreground and backgrounding of the colors. But I'm curious as to what work you've done in maybe increasing the sense of local vertical. I mean, it seems that most of the surfaces were reasonably uniform, except for the last one where the ceiling was lines were a little bit darker. And in some of them, the strips along the corners were less prominent. So, what other things have you looked at in terms of this particular setting that color can assist us in terms of helping make life a little bit more pleasant or not natural?
Let me just answer first part. You said that there wasn't a great differentiation. Did I understand? I'm not sure I understood correctly. That
I was
the scheme.
looking for color's impact on creating a local vertical,
Yeah.
and it didn't seem to always do that.
Yeah, that was one of our starting points
Okay.
because those were one of the requirements. The requirements. So we started off with the requirements, and then we extended this in terms of continuity of space. Our space changes in terms of weight, in terms of dimension, and also emotional terms, in terms of harmony, like in the last example that I showed. But we always start with the verticality and the separation between the working areas of the working stations of the wall, and the physical distinctions. That was a constant. That was one of the requirements that we started with.
Okay, I'm going to have to, there might